Well, Bob, what you're seeing here is the west side, the east side of the salt marsh being worked at. That's the second phase. The main channel is now being dredged, and the material is coming into this end of the marsh area. Most of this marsh area is state and government owned, also owned by some private conservation trusts. During the Depression era, they did a lot of mosquito trenching in this area. And of course, we know now over time that that wasn't a good practice to be in. And so what it did is it caused a lot of shoaling and again, blockage of the flow and proper drainage of the salt marsh. So the preparation for this project, elevations were taken throughout this marsh area, and essentially the sinkholes, if you will, and pans were identified, and they will receive more of the material vertically than some of the other spots. So we will have a well drained marsh when it's all said and done. In most cases, the layer of material that's placed on the marsh will be thin enough that the existing vegetation will grow through it and again restore a healthy marsh area. Other areas that receive more material with more of a vertical difference will have to be replanted. So in May, usually in May, April, May, June area, teams of volunteers will come out and revegetate the plant life that needs to be done. And this is all being done by competent biologists that know the wetland ecology here. Most of the material that'll be planted comes from a nursery down in New Jersey, but we also have a little pilot program of local high school students that are also learning to grow marsh grass in their agriculture vocational program. So they too will be involved in the replanting of the marsh. But right now it looks pretty beat up because they're just trying to restore the elevations. And again, the great big tractor that's over there works on the marsh without destroying the material. What's going on here, of course, is directing the flow of the dredge material into the proper elevations. And of course, the big excavator over there actually is needed to move the pipe. And you can actually hear the material coming through the pipe now. Of course, about 85% of what's coming through here is actually seawater, with the sand mixed in. And so right now they're working on that elevation, and they'll be working on that phase of the project. The west side phase is pretty well set up now. The west channel is done, so now we're focusing on the east side. And this is actually the main channel that will be restored here. Yeah, this is quite an interesting piece of equipment. God knows how much it costs, but it's a regular excavator with these high-tech tracks on it. So as it moves through the marsh, it is not destroying the marsh. Like right now in this high ground that we're standing, you can see the great big tracks from the tractors that have worked down there. But if you look over in there, you'll see that those great big tracks just went over the marsh, but it didn't dig it up. It just laid flat. It distributes the weight of that great big machine all along in there, so there's no damage with that machine moving around the marsh. And I think one of the fellows from the Brennan company said the thing actually can float. It's quite a piece of equipment. So here we are again, Charlestown Breachway. Again, thanks to a lot of hard work, particularly the Charlestown government, CRMC, we were able to realize that there was a problem developing, shoaling up the Breachway, which wasn't dredged that long ago. So fortunately, the town of Charlestown and all the folks that work together, Salt Ponds Coalition, many volunteers, the Harbor Commission in Charlestown, everybody that pitched in, that was able to have the funds to make this happen. So while Brennan is in the area, we have a chance to get this sandbar dredged out. We don't know really what caused it to happen, you know, in such a short time, but it blocked up the breachway. So now that we have the apparatus in here, and that area will be cleaned up, and that will improve the flow into Ninigret Pond, which is absolutely critical to the water quality and health of the pond. When these areas are blocked up like this, the water gets stagnant, there's a buildup of nutrient materials, you tend to have low oxygen, and the aquaculture guys have actually found that they have a rust tide when that happens. So by having a good fresh flow, a good tidal flow through the breachways makes all the difference in the world. So thank goodness all the moons lined up, and there was sufficient funds, and Brennan was right here in town to be able to do this. So this is working out very, very well. Of course, the material coming from this operation is going out for beach replenishment, which is always needed, particularly in this part of the area. This benefits the Charlestown Beach area, but also, since longshore drift brings the material from west to east, Green Hill Beach will also get the benefit of this, this dredging operation. You can see over in here the past project that was done for salt marsh restoration. You can see a lot of the sand buildup that came from Hurricane Sandy, and beyond that area is where the salt marsh restoration is taking place from the dredging that we did a couple of years ago. So as you can see, it's revegetating nicely, and the biologists are very pleased with the success of that aspect of the problem. This particular project, this actually is a maintenance dredging, and the material's going out for beach restoration out in front. Okay, well, this is the end result of the dredging operation. The pipe is going down right along the high tide line of Charlestown Beach, and the material will be used for beach nourishment, which is a really good thing. This beach, of course, has, like all the other coastal beaches in Rhode Island, had its share of beach erosion. And some of those houses that area that's right immediately behind us where there's a clearing was actually 3 houses that were destroyed in a winter storm in 77, 78. And some of those houses have been moved. So it's very important to maintain this beach in a good, healthy manner. And certainly the dredge spoil gives it good material, and it's all beach sand material that goes back on to restore the beach. The reason that we do it this way is to put the water right into circulation. One of the main movements of water in this area, called longshore drift, actually there's a net movement that goes from west to east. So between the Earth's rotation, the orientation of our beaches the way they are, there is a movement of that sand. So by putting the sand right at the tide line, high tide line, the next tide will carry that sand where it wants to go, where it belongs, rather than have a pile somewhere. So it's a good, healthy distribution, and as I said, it moves from west to east, so anything east of where the pipe ends up is going to get the benefit of it. Certainly in the short term, Charlestown Beach, and in the long term, Green Hill Beach also will be given a lot of this sand material as it works its way down. If we did have the discharge, like a lot of places down south, they will just pump the sand right onto the beach face, and then they'll take a big machine, front end loader or whatnot, to distribute it. This makes it a lot smoother, a lot easier, let nature do its thing. On the other hand, if it were piled up on the beach face, then that would open up the necessity for a piping plover restoration, which may impact public access to this area during the mating season of the piping plovers. So by this material going into the sea and being washed that way, it not only replaces and restores the beach area, but it makes it a good public access for the general public.